TCFC.
Hello and welcome back to TCFC. My name is Tom. Today's video is going to be a 1 to 11 of the best Birmingham City players of the current Birmingham City era. And so what I mean by that is a team comprising of players from the present day going back all the way to the 13-14 season, as I believe that's really when our current era of, being out in the doldrums really began. So it makes sense to start the video from that Lee Clark season, because I think since then we've been around the same level of quality of players. So this is the second episode of my 1 to 11 series. I previously did one for our cult heroes, which is really good. You should check that out now. And anyway, let's get started. But first of all, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to TCFC because it helps me out immensely. Anyway, on to the goalkeepers. So in goal, for me, this is one of the easiest choices on the list. So the people we've got Darren Randolph, Thomas Kuszczak, Lee Camp and Etheridge. Now, I actually think that Randolph was much better than all the keepers on that list. In the season where we stayed up in the last second, if it wasn't for Randolph keeping us in the game in so many games, I don't think there'd be any chance of us staying up. I'd go as far to say he was our most important player that year. And he's gone on to good things. He's generally been regarded as a good keeper, and I'd certainly be delighted to have him back at Blues. Compare him to Kuszczak, who I thought was a steady pair of hands, but nothing too flashy. He was certainly better than Lee Camp, although I really like Lee Camp, I just got to say. And I do think he's better than Etheridge as well. It may be that in time Etheridge can improve, but I think he's got a bit of work to do to get up to the level that Darren Randolph was at. So easy first choice for number one spot. Up next, it's the right back, and we've got a few really good choices for this one. So I would say probably the fan favourite for this one, who was the right back of my cult hero 11, is of course Paul Caddis. He generally was a good player for us. He scored that goal against Bolton to keep us in the Championship at a time when we desperately needed a goal. And he's going up against, of course, our current right back, Maxime Collan, who I think has been excellent for us overall. I would say that he's probably our player of the season this year. He's played for some really crap managers and played in some really crap Blues teams, but he's one of the players who isn't always giving goals away. He's not making loads of mistakes. He's pretty consistent, and when he's given the freedom, I think he's actually got really good attacking spirit, as good as Caddis. And the other player the other significant player who's played at right back for us would be Jonathan Spector, who I have to say in his last season for us, before we more or less exiled him after sacking Rowett, I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was absolutely brilliant for us at right back and the best he'd ever been for us. But with that in mind, I have to say I'm going to give it to Maxime Collan, because I think over the 3 or 4 seasons with us, he's been absolutely really consistent and one of our best players. Probably one of the best right backs in the league, and I really look forward to seeing what Lee Bowyer can get out of him. Up next, it's the first centre back, and for me this one is another easy one because I think he stands head and shoulders above all the other defenders we've had recently, and that is Michael Morrison. He was our captain. I think he was absolutely brilliant for us. I also think he was really unfairly treated by the Blues fans. Apart from a very small stretch of time under Gianfranco Zola, he was absolutely fantastic for us. He also was capable of getting a goal. I believe he scored, I think it was 14-15 goals while playing for Blues in the league, which for a centre back that's really good, and it's a lot more than what our current centre backs have got. So he was calm, he was collected. As I say, he could score goals, he led the team, and I just think he was really consistent. Apart from, as I mentioned before, that brief period under Zola, and he obviously came back from injury under Harry Redknapp, earning him the nickname Lazarus Morrison. But I think he was excellent. I think he's far better than anyone we've got at the moment. Okay, so for Michael Morrison centre back partner, I'd say we've got 4 choices. We've got Paul Robinson, we've got Ryan Shotton, we've got Harley Dean, and Mark Roberts. So I'm going to go with Harley Dean for this one. I'll explain why. I do think that he's really improved under Bowyer. I think there is a competent centre back in there. I think the closest contender to him was probably Ryan Shotton, who he was strong, he was fast, he had a lot of enthusiasm for the club, as does Harley Dean. Roberts, if it wasn't for the fact that Roberts over the years has made, I'd say, one too many mistakes for us. Like, there was a time when he was a bit of a liability. I really think he's going to improve under Bowyer, and I think both him and Dean, they could have really good seasons next year. And again, I'd say that Dean will just pip Paul Robinson to this one, because even though Paul Robinson was old when he came to us, and he was definitely, he was a bit long in the tooth, that at the same time he put in a really, really good shift for us for quite a few seasons. You know, he was our player of the year one year, and just really worked hard for the team. However, I'm going to give this one to Harley Dean for his recent work, I should add. And that means moving on to the left back position, and we have got two players vying for this one, and it is Jonathan Grounds going up against Christian Pedersen. Now, I think on paper Pedersen wins this quite easily because he is a technically much better footballer. He's much better at getting forwards, he's quicker, he's probably stronger. On his day, he's probably better at tackling. However, I would say that Grounds, although he was much maligned for basically being shit, actually wasn't shit and was just a scapegoat by the fans, and was actually a perfectly adequate, if a little average, right back. But he made way less mistakes than Pedersen. He contributed a lot less going forward than Pedersen, but he was just a lot less flashy, and I don't really know why fans hate him so much, but, you know, if you're at the games, it's all you'd hear. Grounds, you're shit. But I don't think he was shit. I think he was actually quite good. Be that as it may, I'm going to give this one to Pedersen because I do think that the technical abilities that he does possess means that, you know, on his day, he's brilliant and there's potential for him to become a really good footballer. If he can just cut out the ridiculous concentration errors he has, he'll go on to be a really, really good player. Which is why I'm putting him at left back in this team. So moving on to the central midfield, the first player I've got is Michael Kieftenbeld, who is one of my all-time favourite Blues players. He's one of the most underappreciated players as well. The work he did for us was absolutely fantastic, and selling him was an absolutely mind-bogglingly dumb decision. But, you know, hey-ho, dog. So he was a brilliant destroyer. He was very much an N'Golo Conte for us. Like, he doesn't offer very much going forward, but in terms of his breakup play, absolutely fantastic. And having him in the team meant that other players, you know, could really tick. He's played in a lot of Blues teams, and he's never lost his attitude. I just think, you know, it's a real shame that we sold him. And yeah, really, really good player. So his midfield partner is going to be, I mean, this is a tough one for me, because the reason why it's a tough one is because we actually haven't had very good midfielders over the years. We've generally been not blessed with them. I guess you've got the likes of Stephen Gleeson, you know, you've got the Claytons of this world, but for me, I'm going to give it to David Davis. His time under Rowett for us was really good. I don't think his best position is actually centre mid. He's a much better as a marauding midfielder. He's good just charging up and down the pitch, breaking up play, but also getting some goals as well. His work rate was fantastic. Obviously he got that injury that really slowed him down, but I think in one of our seasons, I think the Zola season, he was our player of the year, and he stood out as being just one of the few players who didn't just fall apart during that time, and that's why I'm putting him in as the other centre midfielder. Okay, so on to the right side of midfield. We generally haven't been particularly strong in this position. We had the likes of Hotter, who really flattered to deceive. I don't think he was ever particularly loved by the Blues fans. The fact that he's gone to Villa now makes me dislike him much more. There was people like, you know, Mr. Abti. Mahoney was quite good, but I have to say I think the real only choice for this is David Cotterill. He wasn't particularly enjoyable to watch in terms of the way he played, but he was great at crossing. His crosses generated loads of goals. He was great at free kicks. So he contributed. He contributed more than a lot of players we've had in many, many years. As I say, you know, he didn't look very strong. He was not particularly good at beating players. He wasn't particularly good at tackling players, but he did work quite hard. And as I say, he got assists and he got goals, and that's what we need for a football club. So that's why this one is a pretty easy choice for me. And speaking of easy choices, we're going to go over to the left-hand side now, and it's going to be, I don't think there's any question about this, Demarai Gray on the left. His career hasn't blossomed the way that I would have, you know, really hoped it would at Leicester, but when he played for us, he was brilliant. He scored important goals. The one that springs to mind is the first one he really sprung into the scene was that goal against Wolves when he ran the whole length of the pitch and took it around their goalkeeper. Absolutely brilliant. And also the fact that he scored a hat-trick against, who was it against? He's Reading. He scored a hat-trick against Reading, and we don't have any players with that pace anymore. And we've never, since we got rid of Gray, I don't think we've ever had that attacking element to us of someone from midfield who can just break away. And I think the combination, which was the Demarai Gray, David Cotterill and John Terrell in the middle of an attacking three, it was really excellent, and it's just a shame that it got broken up. But you know what you're going to do. So I don't really think there's much competition for the Demarai Gray place, apart from possibly Jacques Magoma, who again is massively underrated player for us. At times is absolutely fantastic, and now I'm saying his name, I'm wondering whether it actually should be him in the team. But I'm going to stick with Demarai Gray. But I just want to give a moment of appreciation for Magoma for all the fantastic work that he did, another scapegoat player who, yeah, and I really liked him. But unfortunately, Jacques is going to be Dimmy on the left hand side. Now that brings us over to the strikers, and if you know anything about Blues, you'll know who these two strikers are going to be, because as a strike partnership they're an absolute force. But before I get on to them, I'm just going to quickly touch on the one player who's being left out from that, which is Clayton Donaldson. So Donaldson, he really led the line very well under Gary Rowett in the early stages of his reign, and at the end of Lee Clark as well. He scored 10 goals plus for a couple of seasons in a row. I think he got an injury and he never really recovered that zip that he had before, but I really liked him. Just unfortunate for him that he's got Che Adams and Lucas Jukovic to compete with, and what more is there to say about it? Che, he improved season after season with us until I think he scored 25 goals in the championship for us, and he was absolutely fantastic with his partnership with his partner on this list, Lucas Jukovic. They both got an absolute boatload of goals, and their strike partnership was just phenomenal. It was beautiful to watch. I love a good strike partnership. And so Che, obviously, he's gone on to have a pretty good season with Southampton, and I'm really happy for him with that. And so let's talk about Jukovic. He's the Jeff Horsfield of this era. He works so hard. He's constantly written off by people who say Juk is finished, which if you watch his channel, I don't think he is at all. Every season he's written off. Every season he comes back with goals. If you get those balls in the box and he's got good players around him, he will score goals. And he's been absolutely fantastic for us. Like, if there was one Blues player from our current squad that I'd just love to meet and shake their hand, it'd be Lucas Jukovic, because he's my favourite. And I don't think there can really be any question that Che and the Juk are the strikers for this era. They have been the best players all round, I'd say. But really, that's the end of my video. That is the 1 to 11. So what I'd like you guys to do now is tell me in the comments who you think should be in your 1 to 11 team. Do you think that I've left anybody decent out? Or it's quite possible that I've just forgotten a few players, because sometimes I do that. But yeah, let me know what you think. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to TCFC. As I said before, it really helps out the channel. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a really nice day.